Life Audio.
Welcome to the Team Us podcast, where we share how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Hey, everyone. I saw what you did there.
Marriage.
We're Ted and Ashley Slater. Sometimes in marriage, we forget that staying a team takes time. As a result, we can find ourselves slowly drifting away from one another. However, research shows that couples who spend time together regularly and consistently are happier and have a better relationship. So listen in as we talk about why staying a team takes time and it's worth the investment. So Ted, we're back after a long...
It's been a bit. It's been a minute.
Recording
It's been
break.
like at least a week or two.
Oh no, it's been months. It's probably been
Months.
8 months.
Yeah, we've been absent podcasters.
Yeah, well, we hit a season where work and parenting just required more from us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had some new clients.
Yeah,
It's always exciting, building some new websites and new clients.
Yeah, and that kept you very busy.
Very busy. Yes.
Yeah, and I did a lot of editing. I think
You did like how many books?
I edited like 4 books
Yeah.
and 2 Bible studies.
Nice.
And several issues of like bi-monthly Devo that I do regularly.
Very nice.
And
Yeah, busy. And,
Yes. After thinking we were done homeschooling, we returned to homeschooling last fall.
Yep.
Our two oldest have graduated. Our 2 youngest were in charter and private school, but it just ended up that it was a better fit to go back to homeschooling.
Yeah.
So
I think they like it better, and they're
I think
learning
so.
some cool stuff.
yeah, but that was a little unexpected.
And it takes time
Yeah,
for you, mostly.
exactly. Yeah. So we kind of had to limit what we could do during that season, which meant I didn't really have time to write scripts and you didn't have time to record regularly.
Right.
But we're back now.
Yes, we are. Back firing on all cylinders. That's a automobile term, phrase.
Yeah. I've heard it, but I don't know automobiles.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'm sure our listeners do. So we're excited to be back. And today, we're going to dive into the topic, why staying a team takes time and it's worth the investment. So we're going to do that after a short break. Okay, so Ted, I was recently talking to a couple who's a little further along in life and marriage.
Right.
He's in his 70s, or no, he's 70.
Okay.
And we were talking and somehow it came up, when he looks in the newspaper, what he looks for are the obituaries
Right.
to see if, anybody who's a peer has died recently. And he said something to me like, yeah, that's just what you do in this season of life when you're 70. And I found myself thinking, okay, well, I'm in my 40s. What do I find myself noticing about my peers or people in, the same season of life and marriage,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I don't really do that. I'm in my 50s. I mean, I look at some of my peers and I'm, take inspiration from them or whatnot, the way they spend time with their kids or with their spouse or that kind of thing. But I guess for me, I don't really think about that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should.
I don't know. Well, it wasn't like when he said that and I asked myself that question internally, it wasn't like I'd been noticing it, but all of a sudden something stood out to me. And that was that I'm noticing a lot of marriages ending.
Yeah, I just find that really sad.
It is.
Even celebrity couples, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just sad.
It is. And, I think I should probably pause here. And for those of you listening, we're not judging, divorced couples and sharing this observation. Yes, we definitely want to see all marriages succeed, which is one reason we do this podcast, to hopefully encourage those of you listening. But, we also understand that we live in a broken world, and sometimes that results in broken marriages. When 2 imperfect individuals get married, there's lots of room for disappointment, betrayal, and heartbreak. And I think each broken marriage has its own story. I mean, we have close friends and family members who've been divorced, and It's been very painful for them. So if you're listening and you just heard us talk about noticing the marriages falling apart and you've been through divorce or you know someone going through it, please know that, I'm simply making an observation. I'm not judging. That said, if you are listening and you are married, we want to see you grow and thrive and succeed in your marriage, just as we want to do in ours. And when I see those painful stories of broken marriages, I know it spurs me on to fight even harder for our marriage.
Right.
And figure out what we can do to keep growing together and growing strong.
Right. To, if there's like abuse,
right,
or unfaithfulness, I think those are, that's probably going to lead to a divorce, or it could. There are instances where it doesn't, but just the little things that sort of start snowballing can lead people apart, and so we want to be aware of that in our marriage, so that we don't snowball ourselves into, being in a marriage that's not worth saving.
Right. And I do want to say, there are people who have had unfaithfulness in their marriages, and they both want to fight.
We know
marriage.
couples like that. Yeah, we know several couples like that.
So if you're listening, and that's your story. Don't necessarily give up. Yeah. Okay, so early in the podcast, we had this podcast. Okay. Not early in this episode, but early in the Team Us podcast.
Okay, among the first 10.
You have to think back really far since took this really long break. We talked about how becoming a team takes time, and that's okay. I actually talked about that in the book Team Us.
Oh, right, when we first got married.
Right.
It's taken time to sort of shed the singleness and become a married couple.
Yeah, that the old single habits don't die immediately. We talked about The Princess Bride, so it's kind of funny that you mentioned, what was it?
Marriage.
At the very beginning of the podcast, if you guys...
We talked about The Princess Bride?
Not in this episode, but no, we talked about it in the... My ladies, you're just trying to throw me off today. In the past episode where we talked about how single habits take time to die. We talked about say his name, I mispronounce it, who was hunting for the...
Inigo Montoya.
Yes. So anyway, it's kind of funny that you mentioned marriage at the beginning. Anyway, all right, back to little rabbit trail there. So that episode looked at how, old single habits don't die immediately. So we need to be patient with each other through the process of becoming a team.
Yes, that's good.
But I think that something happens as our marriages get older. And that's that sometimes we forget that staying a team takes time, and we can slowly drift away from one another. As couples, we can feel disconnected, and as a result, I think some couples end up feeling emotionally incompatible. And I do think that is one of the factors that contributes to many divorces.
Sure. Yeah, they just grow apart and then don't see a point in the marriage.
Right. Yeah. Well, I read an article, it was over at an LA law firm's website, that attributed no longer satisfying marriages or a lack of connection as a reason for the rise of divorces among couples over 40. I'm in my 40s, so the marriages that I'm noticing falling apart are people in their 30s and 40s. Okay. And the article said, quote, yes. Over time, couples may find that their relationship lacks the spark or intimacy it once had. With longer life expectancy and a desire to pursue their own goals, individuals may choose to prioritize their happiness by ending their marriages if they no longer find them satisfying or fulfilling.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah.
Seeking happiness by ending your marriage. I suppose some people resort to that. It just gets so... that's not going to happen to us.
Nope.
Hopefully it doesn't happen to our listeners.
Yeah. Well, and we've had a few different episodes that address some of what's being stated in that quote.
Right.
For example, if you want to hear thoughts on marriage lacking the spark or intimacy it once had, check out Love Isn't Enough to Keep You Together. I don't remember the episode number. And you can hear our thoughts on the dangers of prioritizing individual happiness and why a boring marriage can be a good marriage. Both those titles are intriguing, right?
Right. The first one's a reference to that
Captain and Tennille.
Captain and Tennille. Love will keep us together.
Right. Yeah. I originally wrote an article for boundless.org on that. And then we adapted it. Instead of talking to singles, talking to married couples when we brought it on the podcast.
In that episode, Why a Boring Marriage Could Be a Good Marriage.
Yes.
Boring is tongue-in-cheek. It's sort of... what's another word for boring? Sort of
Don't tell them
predictable. Oh, yeah.
too much.
Yeah,
They can
go listen to that one.
episode.
Maybe we do mean boring. Or not.
But okay, so today what I want to specifically talk about is how staying a team takes literal time spent together and how doing so can help us stay connected and have a satisfying marriage. Relationships only grow and strengthen when we invest time in them regularly and consistently. So we're going to dive into that after another short break. All right. So I love reading Shaunti Feldheim's marriage research.
She's written a lot of good things.
It's
very
helpful.
Very practical.
When we were doing premarital mentoring, we've probably mentioned this on the podcast before. We would use what was the book, like What Women...
For Men Only?
Yeah, For Men Only and For Women
Something
Only.
like that.
And sometimes that was the most helpful content that we would read in talking to the engaged couple. Well, in her book, Highly Happy Marriages, she looks at what characterizes a yes couple.
Yeah.
So yes couples are those couples where the husband and the wife both independently answered yes to the question, are you personally, generally happy, thank you, in your marriage these days and enjoying being married?
Yes.
That's the correct answer.
Of course.
She discovered that one of the things that yes couples do is hang out. And they don't just hang out because they're happy. A big reason they're happy is because they hang out.
Huh.
She shares,
And you quote,
and I quote, either consciously or subconsciously, they work to maintain their friendship rather than take it for granted. And the most important way they do that is to spend time together. They are in proximity to each other a lot. And I don't have this in my notes, but in that particular chapter, she starts out the chapter by talking about, we may have lots of friends like on social media or Facebook, but usually the friends we're closest with are the ones who are in close proximity to us because we see them the most.
Sure, I can see that.
So she kind of started out the chapter talking about that.
Right. Of course, you need to make exceptions. I mean, military families, or if somebody is having to take a job. I mean, I took a job in Illinois and you stayed back in Colorado to sell our house. Totally not ideal.
No, and she does, I think I'll get to this later in my notes, but she does offer thoughts in that chapter for couples who are in unique situations like that.
Right.
So,
right, especially with technology we have now.
Right. So I highly recommend this book. And you'll probably hear me quote stuff from it throughout upcoming episodes. Because like I say, I really find her research fascinating.
Easy to read, very practical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so staying a team in marriage takes literal time spent together.
Not figurative.
Although I'm using...
No, literal is a good word. It's good.
When used correctly, that's a little bit of a pet peeve for both of us, right?
Yeah.
When we're watching or listening to something and someone
It's
likes
a
to say...
literal pet peeve.
We're like, that's not being used correctly.
Anyway.
Okay.
So what was point one?
Well, I haven't got to that yet.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, so what are some ways that we and our listeners can be intentional to invest this time into our marriages?
Yes.
So 1, schedule time together. And I often say the things you hear on this podcast are just kind of common sense. But I think we all need to be reminded
right.
of common sense.
Right. I mean, you and I we've been married, 20-something years?
21.
21.
Yeah.
So, just practical, literal. Yeah, no, this is really helpful. So schedule time together.
Yes. Okay. So an article on bride.com. And if you notice that I quote things.
Which feels a little artificial to schedule time together. Right?
Right.
But it's practical, it's doable, it's helpful.
But if you don't do it, then it's not going to happen. And the fun thing, and then we'll get back on my notes. The fun thing I found that when you schedule time together, then you get to anticipate it. And I like to anticipate things.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking you could either anticipate or dread.
Yeah, well, hopefully you're not dreading it.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Okay. So bride.com.
Okay.
And I was saying...
I anticipate the time we spend together.
Good. I was saying, listeners, I was saying this to Ted earlier, that one reason you see me bringing in resources from other places is because, as we've said before, we don't consider ourselves experts. We're more of mentors or friends who are walking along this marriage journey with you. So I like to bring in what other people are saying too, because I find it helpful, and hopefully those of you listening do too. Okay, so an article on bride.com says...
Brides.com.
Brides.com. Thank you for keeping me...
Want to make sure people know where to go. They're interested.
Yes, and the links for these articles will be in the show notes. Okay, so it says, and I quote, yes, you might have already fallen in love, but what's just as important is staying in love. The best way to keep the spark alive and prevent complacency in your marriage... I'm totally reading this wrong.
No, that's right. That's the question.
Yeah. Continue to date your partner, no matter how long you've been together. Blocking off time in your calendar for regular date nights is essential for a stronger marriage. And this is not even coming from a Christian perspective. Common sense, right?
Yep.
So we've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah, I like it. It's also cheaper than taking the whole family, so...
We get to try new restaurants. Yeah, but scheduling, I mean, it's good. We got a little off track because sickness hit our house.
Yeah.
Like you were sick for like a week and a half, and then the kids were sick, and yeah. So we need to talk. We need to figure out our date night this week, but we can do that after we're done recording. Yeah, because the week slips away, and I think when those weeks, when time slips away and we don't schedule, I notice that we feel disconnected unless we intentionally figure out ways to connect.
Right. You have something in your notes. I've got your notes written in front of me.
Oh, you want me to say that? Okay.
I want you to go there.
You want me to go there? Okay. We have learned, being married 21 years, that we don't just schedule date night. We have to schedule sex. Because otherwise, time slips away. And we're both tired. We have full schedules. But that's another one of those things where it's fun to anticipate.
Right.
And know that we're on the same page.
Right.
There's no...
miscommunication.
Right. Or is he in the mood? Is this a good time?
The shades are up in the window. Does that mean
we don't need to go?
No privacy.
Yeah. That's a conversation for another episode right there. Yeah. So, I don't think it's unromantic to schedule dates or sex. I think it's practical.
Not for us.
Not for us. Yeah. All right. I
can't believe you went there. Let's go to number 2.
Yes, number 2. Just say no. So it's easy to fill our schedule with a lot of good things.
Yep.
But if we're filling it with too many good things, we won't have time to spend together, let alone time to schedule it.
Right.
So I think, when you were considering adding something new to the calendar, we really need to ask ourselves, if I say yes,
Please don't say that. Say yes. Yeah.
If I say yes to this, will I have time for my spouse?
Mm-hmm.
So another article, because we've already established I like to quote articles. That's over good. At focusonthefamily.com, Selena Frederick, A Fierce Marriage, writes, quote, part of loving your husband or wife well might mean giving up things on your weekly schedule for a season. Those things you're giving up will most likely be good things. For example, leading worship at church. I think that was the example she talked about for them in the article. Mm-hmm. It's a bold step, but if one or both of you is feeling disconnected and alone in your marriage, it may be time to examine your weekly schedules. How much time are you spending just being together? Texting and talking on the phone don't count. I'm talking about unrushed, face-to-face time meant for communicating and enjoying each other's friendship and company. That's solid advice.
Absolutely. No, I look forward to I look forward to the times I spend that we schedule with friends, a dinner or an outing or a meeting at a play or doing double dates and so on. But I like also having a relatively open schedule so we can do stuff together.
Yeah.
Even if it's just hanging out, the back patio or a walk.
Right. Taking a walk. We've been doing that when the weather permits and schedule permits. I mean, that's part of my quest to get you healthier too, though. So it's double. It does double. It gets you healthy, gets you moving. Because you sit at the computer a lot. And we get to spend time together, and I can ask you how your day went. And All right. So we've talked about scheduling time together. We've talked about just saying no. And the third thing is be fully present. So we can schedule time together and say no to other things. But if we're distracted during our time together, we're not going to build that emotional connection that helps us stay a team. And I'd say this is kind of a challenge for us just because we both work from home. And when you work from home, there's not always a clear work-life balance.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can think of times when I've been working on a project like deep in the code, and I have a hard time multitasking. So if I'm deep in my code, I'm like really focused and I'm trying to figure something out and testing something out and stuff. And then maybe Ashley has some family related thing to talk about, something that's, legitimate and, important. And because my nose is in the code, I'm not always fully present when she's talking about some family thing that's important.
Yeah, but I also need to be, on the other hand, you're in the middle of working, so I need to be understandable. I might not be interrupting you at a good time.
Right.
So I think here I'm more even specifically talking about when you set aside that time together, being fully present.
That sounds good. I mean, you could always, sometimes we just get the stuff off our chest. Like I have a client that's got a difficult project or something, and we talk about that, just get it out of the way, and then we can talk about more important
Or I'm
things.
working through something I'm editing, and I'm wondering if I'm advising the author well. And since you've been an editor also in the past, I'll be like, okay, what do you think? Do you think I'm nitpicking, or do you think this is helpful?
No specific examples.
No, I mean, that's just the life of a web designer and an editor.
Yep.
Well, I read a blog post over at Prepare and Enrich, and they offered some helpful thoughts for situations where you have a hard time pulling yourself away from work to give your spouse attention.
Mm-hmm. You have a quotation here?
I do.
Very nice.
Today I have lots of quotations.
Lots of quotes.
Yeah, because like I said, they help me too. All right. So they write, which do you think is more valuable? 3 hours with your spouse in which your mind is preoccupied with work, or 30 minutes with your spouse where you're fully present with them? The answer is pretty obvious. Sometimes time simply isn't on your side. Maybe you've got a big deadline coming up, or the team is short-staffed and you need to help out. That doesn't mean your relationship has to lose out. Dedicating even a small amount of time during which you're fully engaged and in the moment can be much more meaningful than hours of your mind and attention being elsewhere. So they're not saying it has to be quantity time, but just make the time quality time.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think you can have like quantity time. Yeah. No, I see the value of undistracted, fully present time.
I kind of see it kind of like my mindset when I exercise lately. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I really wanted to do the strength training video for a half hour, but I only did it for 10 minutes today. But 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Right.
It's kind of that, instead of giving up and not doing it at all, what can you give for that day? Because some, undivided time is better than no undivided time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the undivided time, as you said, doesn't have to be intense.
Right.
You could just be sitting on the back patio, maybe you reading a book and mentioning something every once in a while, and me sitting there and drinking my iced tea, fried okra.
Yep.
Sounds nice, right? And just
Can you tell
chatting.
We lived in the South for a while? We're in Arizona now, but we were in Georgia for a while. All right. To summarize,
yes,
staying a team takes time and it's worth the investment. A few ways to regularly and consistently invest that time are to 1, schedule time together, 2, just say no, and 3, be fully present. So after this last break, we'll give you an Us Time challenge you can do this week to help you and your spouse stay a team. Okay, Ted.
yes,
For this week's Us Time challenge, I'm going to challenge our listeners to look at the calendar and schedule a date this week.
yes.
And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be some
Like a
special.
dinner and a movie, something formal.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be special, romantic, or even well planned.
Right. Be a food truck.
Right. Or an evening walk. Well, okay. I'm going to give an example here.
Give
at
an
the
example.
end. So Ted's not a big Valentine's Day guy.
Oh, I'm such an... I used to be romantic.
This is not, yeah. But Valentine's Day, I don't think you've ever been a Valentine's Day guy for as long as I've known you. But we ended up going to dinner on Valentine's Day. And Ted said to me, it's a date, but it's not a Valentine's Day date. And I was like, that's confusing. It's like, what do you mean? It's a date on Valentine's. And he was like, because Valentine's dates are supposed to be like romantic and candlelight and
pressure to like, I don't know. Yeah.
And I said to you, it doesn't have to be that. It's just spending time together.
There you go.
So, I think you were feeling a pressure that I wasn't putting on you.
Yeah.
It's just fun to mark the day and celebrate, even if it's like...
Because the venue wasn't that special.
No, but we got to spend time together, which was special.
Yes.
It was just like a new Chinese quick order type place.
Right. One of our favorite dates is going to Costco.
We do like going to Costco. And we don't live close to one now, so we have to make a drive.
5-minute drive. But yeah, just sort of fun going together and looking at stuff and laughing at stuff and picking out weird foods.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe go to Costco.
Sure. Get a chicken. $5 chicken.
Eat it with your forks in the car.
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Team Us podcast. We're looking forward to next time as we keep talking about how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Team Us with Ted and Ashley Slater is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review the podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.